this is a little bit like the Reagan election of 1980. And because that was a close election going into it. I remember, because I'd only been in the country about not even a year, and the polls were running about even. And it wasn't until it's almost like at the last instant, things broke for Reagan. And because now, it could have been that people were really considering Reagan, but they needed to be reassured that Reagan would be okay for them to vote for. But that produced a big change in the country. And now Reagan did win 44 states. But Reagan did not have the Congress, both houses, in 1980. And so he had to get his agenda through a Democratic Congress. Now let's look at Trump. Trump's margin is not as big as Reagan's. But on the other hand, Trump will have maybe 53 senators. He will have a fairly narrow but clear House majority, maybe 10 seats, maybe 12 seats. And these are people who will know that our side just won, cleanly, taking all the swing states. So they're going to be in the mood to do things. And of course, our, Brandon Gill is right in the thick of it all. And I was just telling him that, it's exciting for him. Because imagine if he goes to Congress, 30 years old, he's the youngest GOP congressman, but the Democrats have the majority. Or Kamala Harris is the president. So you can do whatever you want, but you're kind of wasting your time. Any law that you can get through the House, or even the Senate, is going to be vetoed by the president. You can't override the veto.
Right.
So it would have been kind of a
demoralizing a little bit
of an it makes you more cynical.
Yeah, but and speaking of that, when Reagan won in 80 and he didn't have the House, you have to remember that the Democrats in 80 were not the same as the Democrats.
That is
now.
true. There were the Reagan Democrats who were sympathetic to Reagan on certain things.
Yeah.
You had fiscal conservatives in the Democratic Party, which is now a great rarity. I'm not saying there are none, but there aren't many. There were also foreign policy conservatives, and they weren't always the same people. So what Reagan was able to do is pick off these guys over here for the tax cut, pick off those guys for the missile, for the defense buildup. With Trump, we are now in a more polarized era.
Absolutely.
I think it's fair to say. But there's been a rightward drift in the country. I quoted these numbers before, but I'll just give you a couple of these. Think of it. Trump lost Illinois 4 years ago by 17. Now by 8. New York, he lost it by 23 in 2020. By now 12.